Welcome to the committee. Thank you for bringing your bill forward. Please introduce it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Lead Cagle. So this is House File 795. What this is doing is just giving us more options and opportunities for drivers' appointments at DVS. If I could start out with the A4 amendment.
Please go ahead with the A4 and author's amendment.
Yep, and that's just getting it into the final form as far as just changing when appointments will be available to book.
Representative Myers moves the, what was it, the A4?
Yes.
The A4 amendment. All those in favor of the A4 amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the A4 is adopted. And the bill is in the shape that you would ask for, so please explain the bill and the amendments.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think we've all heard horror stories back in our districts of parents, younger individuals trying to get appointments for DVS. What we're trying to do here is just increase those options and opportunities for people, you know, to get in there. I don't have kids that are 16 yet. My oldest is 12, but I've heard enough horror stories from my friends that have kids where it's been very hard to find an appointment, looking really far out, having to get on at midnight for some of these openings. You know, I know DVS is trying to look at some new things. They're, you know, progressing in the right direction, but I think this helps us to address the backlog of when appointments can be made available. And then there's also a section in here under Section 2 that talks about fees, or what I would say more of trying to incentivize people to follow through with these appointments. You know, I think we may hear from DVS here on the amount of people that aren't showing up, which I believe is around 20%. You know, we're trying to find those opportunities to get people to show up, fulfill the need, and clear that backlog. And I know there's a couple of amendments, or happy to take any questions.
No, thank you for bringing this bill forward. As a father of two teenagers who recently went through the pain of this, I appreciate it and worked on it in the past as well. Let's move to the other amendments. Lead Cagle, do you want to do the A5 or 3 first? Which one do you want to do first? We'll start with the A5 amendment. Representative Tapke.
Mr. Chair, I will move the A5 amendment. And then Representative Cagle, do you want to talk about it, or you want me to talk about it? And then Representative Cagle will, since she's
Go ahead,
not voting,
Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment that I worked on with Representative Tapke would kind of gate appointments. So the first month would only be available to people who live within the county or an adjacent county, and then it opens up further and further to the public. So it really allows for people who are in Greater Minnesota to make sure that they have primary. They get the primary availability to those appointments.
Thank you, Representative Cagle. Any of the members have questions on that? Representative Myers?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Lead Cagle. You know, I think everybody on this committee wants to figure out the best way to address this backlog we have and the problems that we're having. You know, with this amendment, how I look at it is, you know, DVS is a service for, you know, everybody in Minnesota, no matter where you're at. I'm trying not to limit some of that. So because of the amendment, how I look at limits it, I would ask members to vote no.
Representative Tapke?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and Representative Myers. So this comes forward because we heard time and time again, constantly last session in transportation, and I know you weren't here for that piece, but time and time again, anytime we tried to talk about exam stations and taking exams, is that a huge portion of what we were told constantly was the problem was that Metro folks are going into Greater Minnesota and taking up all of the spaces that were available there, and then local people throughout Greater Minnesota were unable to get the tests taken that they wanted to take, and so this would help to alleviate that problem. And I really hope that we are taking this amendment to make sure that we are being fair throughout the state.
Thank you,
Representative Myers?
Yep, thank you, Representative Tabke. Again, I think DVS is doing some good things to expand that, and I feel like this amendment would cut off some of that. I think we need to have that opportunity. If a family is traveling somewhere, they know they're going on a vacation somewhere at a different time. DVS is for everybody in Minnesota. If I'm, traveling to the North Shore with one of my kids when they get to that age and we can set something up, I think we need to have those options and opportunities. So again, I would just ask members to vote no.
Thank you for those comments, Representative Myers. I know that the department is here. Director Zhang, if you want to weigh in on this amendment. So as you go to the testifier table, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the author of the amendment, I'm looking at this amendment, and the way it was presented was that, for the first 3 months, it's going to be open to only people within the county. It doesn't look like this gate that you're creating actually has a door in the gate. Then it looks to me as though this will forever require an individual to go and take their test within one county or the next county. The way this is written does not appear to have a gate whatsoever.
Thank you, Representative Olson. Director Zhang, please introduce yourself, please, just for the record. We know who you are, but others may not. And then I'd love to hear your position.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pong Zhang, Director of the Driver and Vehicle Services Division. We appreciate the thought around making appointments available for those in the county. It really presents two challenges for DVS. One is from a technology standpoint, it's really difficult to implement. It would require us to do some site or customization to MinDrive, which is something that we don't do very lightly, and we are probably, or I can proudly say that we haven't done any customization to the system. It's an off-the-shelf product. We work very closely with the vendor to use the product as is designed so that it remains stable. Adding this piece of technology, mapping counties, mapping locations, that presents a technical challenge for DVS, and for that we encourage that we keep the system open. And then secondly, to the representative's point, that we want to make the appointments available for all Minnesotans. If the appointments are going to be available, we'd like to ensure that all Minnesotans have access to them.
Thank you, Director. And I would just say, as like I had mentioned, a lot of my kids and their friends have gone through this, and so I know that a lot of parents actually have scheduled like weekend mini vacations around where they need to go, whether they're a lot in the Brainerd area or southern Minnesota or that. But so I appreciate those comments, and I too would have some reservations about the amendment. Representative Tapke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will withdraw the amendment and on it with Representative Cagle.
Thank you. The amendment, the A5 has been withdrawn. I appreciate the discussion. Important topic to have. We do have a fiscal note that wasn't in your packet. If we could have one of the pages, distribute that for the members. We're going to move, before we go to testifiers, to the, I believe it's the A3 amendment. Representative Green?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Representative Myers, for bringing this bill forward. I would like to move A3 and talk a little bit about that. So, and I hope you'll take this as a friendly amendment. I do want to give kudos to the DVS. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and we just did her permit test, and we were in and out in 45 minutes, which was fantastic. So I know there's a lot of progress moving forward with the availability of appointments, which is the goal of that I think everyone in this room has. So this amendment is looking at the fees. And when I first read the bill, I was like, yeah, accountability, I agree. And then as I thought more about it, I am just concerned of the unintended consequences of what this would mean, which would mean that if a kid is sick, they're still going to bring him to the appointment. And then if the kid is sick and then they're in a car with the driver, then potentially that driver is going to also get then sick and might be out for 2 or 3 days. So then we have another issue with the backlog. And so that's one of the reasons. So I feel like we need to make it accountable, but yet not so much so that they would make decisions that could put others in harm's way. So that's one of the reasons. And then the second part is, I think increasing fees really sometimes impacts people who can't afford it. And so if we increase fees, there might be people who, it might be too much to even make an appointment at all because they can't even afford $50 if something were to happen. And so that's another area that I'm just concerned about the fees. And I think some of the other parameters that are in here, especially with the growing number of availability of appointments right now to date. I know that there's, over the last month, I understand there's been, I would love to hear from DVS on how many appointments are available as of today. So those are my two concerns, and hopefully you'll consider. Oh, great. Thank you.
We're going to go to Representative Anderson, and then we'll go to the director.
I have a question on the amendment. So it looks like it completely deletes section 2 of the bill, which would then delete all the fees. That section is all the fees within this subdivision. Every fee.
Yes.
Including the
Representative
existing
Green,
fee.
if, we also have nonpartisan staff if you need.
Yeah, I would just like some clarification on that.
Mr. Burris, can you provide?
Thank you.
Does is section 2, the generates all fees, is that deleted in this amendment? Is that, I think that's your question.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair and members, so the amendment would delete section 2, which would be a change to the statute, but the underlying statute would then remain and be unchanged. So the current law fees would stay in place.
Representative Anderson?
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Thanks.
Director Zhang?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question, Representative Green. As of this morning, we have over 6,000 appointments available in all 10 regions. Again, the team has been working tremendously hard to make appointments available. Very proud of the progress we've made. Of course, we still want to do more. We want to be able to have appointments available whenever any Minnesotan wants that test available for them. And with the additional resources that the legislature provided last session, we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to meet that goal this summer. Thank you.
Great, thank you for the answer.
Representative Green, we speak through the chair.
I'm
but
so sorry, Chair.
back to you.
More grace, I appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
No
And,
problem.
Representative Myers, do you have any feedback for the amendment?
Yeah, Representative Green, thank you for the amendment. You know, again, I think DVS is moving in the right direction to help, you know, fill that backlog. And, you know, 6,000 is a lot. I think we need to be, you know, moving forward with an incentive to get people to show up. I think the $20, which I think is currently, currently right now, I think it's helped, but it's not helped enough. I think the premise behind this is to get people to make sure that they're fulfilling those within a timely, you know, within a timely manner. So I would ask members to vote no.
Representative Green, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that, and I also, though, feel like I have to ask, like, how does this make things more affordable for Minnesotans by raising a fee like this?
Representative Myers?
Yep, thank you, Representative Green. You know, I think what we are trying to do here is deal with the issues that parents have to go through when they're trying to get these appointments, that they're up in the middle of the night trying to get these. And we have people that are, you know, booking appointments that are just trying to book appointment to get anything on there. And then they're just either not showing up to this for no reason, or they're not trying to work towards this backlog. I think this is going to give us an opportunity to address that by, you know, you got a teenager that's, you know, needs to show up, because I think $20 isn't something that's going to incentivize them. I think if we can do this amount, it's probably going to help with that backlog.
Thank you. Representative Berg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question, maybe for the bill author, but possibly. So my concern is on line 2.28, the very first examination fees. Is it current statute that there's a fine for failing twice and before you're able to take a third crack at it?
Representative Myers or Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Berg, that is correct. After 2 fails, the third test, the customer has to pay $10 before they can take the test.
Representative Berg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And can you tell me why that is? I just, as a parent of somebody who did not pass on their first try, I guess maybe I have a soft spot for people who struggle a little bit. Can you tell me, is that to cover administrative costs? Like just a better understanding of it? I would feel better about this being part of our laws. Thank you.
Director Zhang, and then we have Representative Olson and Representative Kraft.
Mr. Chair, Representative Berg, the intent of the, well, I shouldn't speak for the intent. I think the hope is that folks are studying, customers are studying for the test and they pass it the first time. When we have to retest, that takes up valuable resources and time. And so the incentive is to get folks to pass the first time. And we do a lot of things on our website and with information and resources that so that folks can be prepared their first time and be successful that first go. And so that fee is a disincentive to not practice and to not study and to be there, to come prepared.
Thank you. Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the director, you just mentioned the phrase valuable resources involved in providing these tests. Can you shed some light on the cost of what DVS incurs when an individual signs up, takes a slot, and then doesn't show up? Now, right now, we've got a $20 fee if you don't show, if you're a no-show under 24 hours. Is that the total cost? You know, I'm a believer that the government is not here to make money. We shouldn't be making money off of our constituents. We should be taking just enough money from them to provide them the services that are necessary. Can you shed some light on how much it costs or what the loss is if that 20-minute or that 30-minute time slot for a test goes unanswered?
Director Zhang.
Mr. Chair, Rep. Olson, we don't break down the cost per exam in that manner, and I think it presents some challenges in different exam stations, and I'll just give an example of in some of our smaller exam stations in the further reaches of the state, we have 2 to 3 examiners, and we offer every single appointment that's available to them. When they're not doing exams, when those appointments aren't taken, they're assigned other work. And then on the reverse, here in the metro, we're usually not having appointments available, and so when that appointment the person doesn't show up for that appointment, it ends up being just a total loss for that time. But it's really difficult to quantify because of the different makeups of the exam stations. What we do encourage folks is that if they know that they can't make the appointment, to go and cancel that as soon as possible. And if they don't do it within the 24 hours, then they incur the $20 fee.
Thank you, Representative Olson. You good?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it safe to say that an individual working for DVS providing these sorts of tests is making $20 an hour? Is that a safe bet?
Director Zhang.
Mr. Chair, Representative Olson, there is a pay range that we could provide. I believe $20 is within that range.
Thank you, Director Zhang. Representative Kraft, and then we'll have at least one testifier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Myers, for bringing this bill. So just some questions. Do we, maybe this is for, I'm not sure what this is for, is there a charge for driver's tests today?
Director Zhang.
Mr. Chair, Representative Kraft, the first 2 road tests do not have a fee associated. If they fail both times and they take the third and subsequent test, there's a $10 fee.
Okay.
Follow-up.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. But if they pass, then they have to pay for a driver's license, I gather? Is that correct?
Yeah, Representative Kraft, you don't get multiple follow-ups, so if that's your question, or
I
do
don't
you
get
want to go to
multiple
something
follow-ups?
else?
Why not?
Because we have a full committee and you got 16 members on the committee, so.
Well, then, okay, I have more than
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
that's why I'm reaching out to you to maybe be a little more comprehensive question.
So my question would be is, how often does this happen now? Do you know that raising it to $50 will reduce it? And have we considered other things to use that time? If it happens, the other thing you could do is you could have a standby person that could be able to get in at the last minute, a standby kind of approach. I'm just concerned about, I appreciate trying to do it better. And I'd also say, if you could, the last point would be, do we have a problem right now? It sounds like with the additional people we've added that we don't. So I appreciate having more visibility. I'm just thinking that raising the fees, it doesn't feel like there's that it's going to fix a problem that we have right now. And I don't want to unduly burden people that don't necessarily need it.
Director Zhang and then Representative Myers, if you want to comment on it, it's your bill, you can, of course, but we'll start with the Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Kraft. Of all appointments in fiscal year '24, 34% of appointments made were canceled. And just under 50%, 48% of those appointments that were actually canceled were canceled within the last 24 hours. And so we know that when this no-show fee was implemented, we saw our no-show rates drop. Not significantly, but they definitely did drop. But there's no indication for us that raising the no-show fee would actually change the behavior. And so we just don't have enough data to know if that will have that impact.
Representative Myers?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I believe in the past, supporting that no-show fee was bipartisan. We're just trying to find more, ways to ensure that we can fulfill those slots and people are showing up.
Not that we're particularly interested what happens on the other side of the Capitol, but I understand that the bill has a good bipartisan measure to it as well. Representative Tapke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to make note as well that we did a ton of work on this area last year, and so we've gotten in the last 2 years, and we've taken that a long way. So I would love to continue getting updates as this goes forward as to how we're doing here from the department, but also to make specific notice of very soon we passed a plain language bill that the goal is to reduce the number of times that folks who English is not the first language it takes to take the test. And so we are moving that forward. So hopefully that will help with this problem in conjunction with the other things that got done. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have one testifier, and Director Zhang, if you have closing comments, you're welcome to as well. But Mr. Pat or Mr. Pat Benner, legislative representative, asked me. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pong Zhang, Director of the Driver and Vehicle Services. And I just want to appreciate the opportunity to provide some thoughts on this bill. We do have some concerns about the impacts of this bill. We share the desire to make appointments available for all Minnesotans. And we've been working very hard to make those appointments available. And like I shared earlier, we have right now over 6,000 appointments in all 10 regions of the state. Again, very proud of having that. We're going to work really hard to have even more appointments available closer to the date when folks want to take their tests. Our concern is that this bill will remove some flexibility for DVS to implement creative solutions should we find there's a benefit to do something like that. And a great example of that is we recently converted our Plymouth site to all Class D, just the passenger road test, to build some efficiencies there, create some focus, and so we can really churn out appointments. We've seen a dramatic increase in appointment availability because of that work at Plymouth. This language would require us to make those kind of decisions a little bit slower, take us a little bit longer to implement them, and therefore not see those benefits as quickly. Additionally, DVS has offered appointments 6 months in advance in the past, and we saw that when we did that, our no-shows and our cancellation rates were actually much, much higher than what we see today. Just life happens, and I think Minnesotans have every intent to make the appointment that they book. But what we see is that when appointments are made that far out in advance, they end up not working for a plethora of reasons. Having appointments in this very, very short window of 30 days makes sure that Minnesotans are ready, but also DVS is ready, and that we can commit to those resources to those appointments to ensure the customers get the service that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we hear that other testimony, technically the A3 was on the table. All those in favor of the A3? Those against the A3? Nay.
Hey.
The motion does not prevail. Sorry, Director, we kind of went out of order there, but didn't mean to steal your thunder on your close. We'll have Mr. Benner. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Pat Benner, legislative representative with AFSCME Council 5. I'm here today to express AFSCME's support for raising the no-show fee from $20 to $50. The current no-show rate for DVS license exams from a staff perspective is unacceptable, with the ballpark of 20% of tests going unfilled every day, and 48% of those being last-minute no-shows. That means essentially 1 in 10 tests today and every day goes unfilled with very little capacity to be able to improve. No one's able to take those tests or fill those slots. It strongly harms efficiency in a moment when we're working like heck to get out of the DVS backlog that we've been in, certainly since 2018, 2019, when I started at AFSCME. That being said, we are not necessarily wed to $50 being the final fee, nor do we envision needing to keep this fee long-term. If folks were interested in exploring a sunset on increasing the no-show fee or on the no-show fee altogether, or having some sort of study to get better data as to what, how impactful the current no-show fee or an increased one works, we'd be happy to support that as well. But it is a situation where we, as staff, have made quite a few sacrifices over the years trying to improve efficiency. So since 2019 and COVID, obviously, there was a massive consolidation of testing locations. That meant that a lot of our workers went from commuting 10 minutes to their local station. They were going up to an hour away to a different one. We dealt with, of course, some very frustrated people over the years, including folks who have physically assaulted or threatened much more violent assault against our staff, which is why you all appropriated additional security cameras for testing locations, which we appreciated that you did. And now in the 4 metro area testing locations, we are open on Saturdays and Sundays. That was a change in policy. It used to be a just Monday through Friday thing. Our members are not paid any more for doing that work, but we do recognize that it is all important to try to get through the backlog, and we do feel that adding some additional deterrence may improve efficiency. And like I said, if it turns out it doesn't, we can absolutely revisit it. But those are sort of the extent of my comments. I sort of wanted to get in before the amendment was on, but yeah, it was a little different. So sorry about that. But thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Myers.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony, and certainly as a father that recently went through it, I appreciate the work of the driver's exam people. Very courteous, and appreciate how they handled my children. We're just going to lay the bill over, so any final comments? Representative Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just, I would encourage, I'm listening to this, and what this screams out to me for is a standby list. You know, if you're having 1 in 10 that aren't there, then people may be really urgent, and having a standby with a text list or something like that to get people to come in. It seems like that kind of an approach would deal with this issue a lot more effectively than, potentially a lot more effectively than raising rates where no one has said that it's going to solve the problem. So I would just encourage that.
I appreciate the comments, and if you dig into it a little bit, I think there is kind of a standby list. You can show up and hope that somebody cancels, but that takes a lot of resources for parents and students to be there. But we're going to lay the bill over, and if you have better suggestions, I'm sure Representative Myers would be willing to talk about it, and we can explore those options. Seeing no other member comments, Representative Myers, your final comments, please.
No, thank you to the testifiers. Thank you to the committee for hearing the bill, and let's keep moving in the right direction.
House File 795 is laid over.